Hey everybody, and welcome to Project Premium Harvest. My name is Matt. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the weekly payers for Roundhill and for YieldMax. We're going to be talking about their declarations and how much distribution they're going to pay out this week. We're going to look at their share price, and we're going to look at the funds in a holistic manner to make a determination, are these good investments? For anybody that is new to my channel, the first thing I like to show on the video is my portfolio, because I want to show you guys I am an investor. I am in the trenches with you. And my current portfolio value is $111,102.41. Now let's move over to spreadsheets and talk about the declarations for the Roundhill and YieldMax weekly pairs. The first fund we're going to go over is rdte, and rdte incepted at a $45 price, and its all-time high was a $45.65. The March 28th declaration and distribution payment is going to be about 19 cents, and the current share price for rdte is $36.55. I'm not going to go over rock right now. There's still a lot of data that I need to input into Roundhill and some of these YieldMax funds, so I'm going to get to that. I'll try to push hard this weekend to get that data in there. But with that being said, since this fund has been incepted in September 27th, 2024, we have a total premium of $7.90 per share. And if we look at that as a number of distributions, that's 27 distribution payments. And if we look at of these 27 distribution payments, we average about 29 cents a share. And now let's take a look at the inception price to what the share price is right now. And if we look at that, that's negative 18.78%. And if we look at the total return, so basically we're taking the share price and also adding in the total premium, the total return since this fund has been incepted, I know not many people have invested at inception, but it is negative 1.2%. But if we look at that at an all-time high, if we were to invest at the worst time when it peaked, when we had FOMO, we are negative 19.93%. And if we also throw in the distributions in there, it doesn't look as bad, but it's still a negative number of negative 2.61%. As an interesting note, the average share price, if we average out every single one that I've annotated, is about $41.76 a share. Personally, myself, I am invested in rdte. It's a exposure into some of the small cap funds or the Russell index, and thought it was a good way to, I hate the word diversify, but I like the premium for RDT, and I like Roundhill Investments better than YieldMax Investments. With that being said, let's move over to xdte. So xdte, I'm in about $60,000 into this fund, and the inception price was $52 a share, and the all-time high was $53.57. So that's going to be very important for our further calculations. And for the March 28th, 2025 distribution, it's going to be about 21 cents. And the current share price is $46.32. If we look at the distribution, that's not the highest it's ever paid out, but it's also not the lowest. I think it's about on par of what xdte pays out on a weekly basis. And if we scroll down to the total premium, so since this fund has been incepted in March 20, so it's exactly coming up on its 1-year anniversary. So this fund was incepted in March 28th, 2024. And if you were to invest at the inception price, that's $13.32 of premium. And if you look at that as a number of distributions, that's about 53 distributions. And if we look at the average distribution per payment, it's about 25 cents a share. We look at the share price change in value since its inception, it's negative 10.92%. But if we add in the distribution to that share price, it's a positive number. It's positive 14.71%, which is pretty good for about a 1-year return. And these funds are relatively good with return of capital. So it's definitely a good fund to invest in. Just looking at the inception price, but now let's look at the all-time high numbers. If we were to take the all-time high numbers, it's a negative 13.94%. If we look at the all-time high, if we were to invest at that, $53.57, as you can see here, we would still be positive at 11.35%. And if we look at the average share price, it's about $51.27. So just looking at a quick down and dirty 1-minute analysis, this is a good fund to invest in. Now let's go over to qdte. For qdte, the inception price was $45 and the all-time high was $45.98. The declaration payment for March 28th, 2025 is going to be that 23 cents a share, and the current price is $36.27 for qdte. If you look at the total amount of premium paid since this fund has been incepted, it's been out for about a year. Once this Friday rolls around, we had about $15.98 per share in distributions. And if we look at that as a number of total distributions, that's 53. And the average distribution per qdte payout is about 30 cents a share. All right, now let's go to the important numbers. Is this a good investment? So if we look at the share price change in value since its inception, right? So we're going to use that $45 mark. We're negative 19.62%. But if we incorporate that total premium into that share price, it's 16.12% in the positive. So that's pretty good. If you look at the share price change in value, if we invested in the all-time high, we are negative. Oh, I need to change that. One moment. Yep, so forgot the percent sign. It is negative 21% for the share price change in value from the all-time high. If you look at the total return, right, we're throwing in the distribution in addition to that share price, that all-time high numbers. We are positive 13.64%. That's pretty good. Still a positive number. 1 year return at 13.64%. Not many YieldMax funds can say that. If you look at the average share price, it's about $42.14 a share. Now let's go over to YBTC. YBTC has been incepted at that $50 price, and the all-time high for YBTC was that $55.52. The March 28th, 2025 declaration and distribution is going to be about that 32-cent mark, and the current share price for YBT is $42 a share. Since this fund has been incepted in January 31st, 2024, we've had about 25 payments, and that total distribution is about $28.16. If we look at that as an average distribution, it's about $1.12 per payment. And if you look at the share price change in value, since the inception price, we're at negative 16% in just the value of the share price difference. But if we throw in the distribution payments, we're actually up 40.32%, which is relatively high compared to like the xdte, rdte, and qdte, or even I would say some of whatever YieldMax is putting out. But now let's take a look at if we invested at the absolute worst time, that all-time high, right? That's a negative 24.35% number. And then if we do the total return, it's a little bit less than that 40%, but it's still 26.37%. So everyone that is invested into crypto or is bullish on it, you guys have a case, and these funds are performing better than the indexes. Now let's go talk about the YieldMax funds. All right, so starting off with the YieldMax funds, we're going to go over gpty and the March 28th. Why did it go over there? The March 28th declaration and distribution is going to be 27 cents a share, and the current share price is $41.54. If you look at the total premium, we are at $2.04 in total premium. Yeah, so since this fund has been incepted in February 2025, the total premium is $2.40 a share, and the number of distributions has been 8. And if you look at the average distribution for this fund, it's about 30 cents a share. And then let's talk about the share price change in value. So the share price when this was incepted was about $50 a share, and the all-time high was also $50 a share. It's never crested that inception price. So that being said, we are down 16.92%. And then if we throw in that $2.40 in distribution, we are still down negative 12.12%. So not necessarily a good investment. Kind of like what I said in my video last week, it's a downward trend in the market. So can we use that against YieldMax? Not really. They haven't really been too good with the whole NAV erosion thing. So I'm not going to give them the benefit of doubt here. And if you look at the all-time high numbers, they're going to be exactly the same as the inception price numbers because it's that same $50 price. And if we look at that average share price, if we take all these numbers and average them out, we're at $44.17. Alrighty, now let's go over to LFGY. For LFGY, the inception price was $52 a share, and the all-time high was $53.96. The March 28th, 2025 declaration and distribution is going to be 47 cents, and the current share price for LFG is $38.90. Since this fund has been incepted, the total premium is $5.51 a share, and there have been 10 payments for LFGY. If we look at that as a average distribution per payment, that's about 55 cents a share. And then let's talk about the share price change in value since the inception price of that $52. We take this current share price of $38 subtracted by the 52 and then divide it into 52, and then we get negative 25%. And then if we throw in the total distribution into that calculation, we are still negative 14.6%. So it's not very good. And the all-time high number, it has crested a little higher than the inception price, so the numbers look a little bit more bleak. We are still negative 27.91%. And if we throw in the distribution as well, nothing really changes, and it's negative 17.7%. But if we take the current share price and average them out from every single one on the payment date, we are at an average of $44.14 a share. Alrighty. Going over to qdte, they've only had 5 payments. So for qdte, it incepted at that $50 price, and the all-time high was also $50. The March 28th, 2025 declaration and distribution is going to be 27 cents a share, and the current share price is $45.60 a share. Since this fund has been incepted back in February 28th, 2025, so like a month ago, 5 weeks ago, we have a total premium of $1.31 a share. And if you look at the number of distributions since the fund has been incepted, we're at 5. And if you look at how much is the average distribution paid out per share, it's about 26 cents a share. Now let's talk about, is this a good investment? The share price change in value since inception is down negative 8.80%. And the total return, basically taking that premium and also adding it into the previous calculation, we're negative 6.18%. And the numbers aren't going to change for the all-time high because the inception price was the all-time high number. And let's look at the average share price. It's about $46.38. The current share price is below that. So is it a discount or is it going to keep going down? Hard to say, but just doing a quick analysis of this, I'm not going to invest into qdte until they show a track record of actual success and a positive number in either total return or just even the share price value. So one or the other, what they're doing right now, it's not working. Over to rdte, which is the second distribution ever from this fund. The inception price was $50 a share, and the all-time high was also $50 a share. The March 28th, 2025 distribution is going to be that 30 cents a share, and the current share price is $49.30. Look at the total premium since this fund has been incepted. Only 2 payments, kind of like I've been talking about. It's been 62 cents. And if we look at that as an average distribution, it's about 31 cents a share. Now let's talk about, is this investable? From the share price change in value, we are down 1.4%. And if you look at that as a total return with distribution included, we're negative 0.15%. And the all-time high numbers will be exactly the same. Is this a good investment? It's really way too early to tell. But from everything YieldMax has done, they usually don't do a good job. So I would like them, before anybody would invest in it, I would wait about 6 months to see how these funds operate. Are they actually operating in the net positive or negative? And I also think 6 months is a very low amount of time to make a determination for an investment, but these funds are relatively new and that's all we really have. So I would definitely still stay patient when it comes to YieldMax and wait to see the performance versus just jumping in blindly and hoping they're going to make you money. But that's my 2 cents. Moving over to xdte. For xdte, we have a inception price of $50 a share, and the all-time high is the same number. And the March 28th, 2025 distribution is 21 cents a share, and the current share price is trading at $46.61 a share. This fund has been out since February 2025, so about 6 weeks ago, and the total premium is about $1.33 a share. If you look at that as an average distribution for the weekly payer, it's about 22 cents a share, which is actually pretty high. And if we look at the share price change in value for xdte, we're looking at negative 6.78%. And then the total return, basically taking that total premium in addition to this share price change in value, we are at a negative 4.1%. Same story as rdte, too early to tell. Market conditions are in a downward momentum. Maybe this fund could be good, but let's give it some time, wait 6 months. Last data point, average share price is $47.20 a share. All right, moving on to the funds that have been around for quite some time. We're going to be talking about ulty, ymax, and ymax. Let's get the show on the road. So for ulty, the inception price was $20 a share and has never gone higher than $20 a share since this fund has been incepted in March 13th, 2024, and it's been out for over a year. The March 28th, 2025 distribution is 9 cents, almost 10 cents a share. And the current trading price for ulty is $6.51 a share. The total premium that has been paid out for ulty is about $11.89. And there have been 16 different payments since this fund has been incepted. If you look at that as an average distribution, it's about 74 cents per payment. I know ulty has gone weekly starting in March, but before that it was a monthly payer. So this number is going to be slightly skewed. The share price change in value since its inception is negative 67.45%. Wow, how that is a terrible number. And the total return, basically taking this total premium and then investing it into itself, that is a negative 7.99%. And the all-time high numbers will be exactly the same because the inception price was the same as the all-time high price. If you look at the average share price for ulty, basically take all these numbers and average them together, and it is 10.43. Is this a good investment? I would stay away from this fund like the plague until they can prove that they can be profitable with this ETF. Right now, a negative 67.45% NAV erosion is not good. And then the premium is also not good enough to at least balance out that NAV erosion. It's a recipe for failure. And on top of that, I will add this extra data point, is not all of ulty is 100% return of capital. Maybe for the last few weeks it is, but some of it is not. So imagine losing this money, getting paid a distribution, and then having to pay taxes on the distribution payments. That is a not good scenario for success. If you had this into a tax advantage account like a Roth IRA, this doesn't apply to you. But if you have this in your brokerage, this could be potentially really bad. So when it comes tax time, you're in a losing investment, then you have to pay taxes on money that you're losing. Oh, not a good position to be in ever. Warning the community out there. Going over to YMax. I used to be invested into YMax. I just didn't like the volatility with when the market was going down. For every 1% that S&P 500 was going down, YMax was going down about 3 to 4%. And I just rather invest into xdte, something that's a lot safer and it's not going to NAV erode as much. And let's take a look at the numbers. Well, actually, since we talked about xdte and YMax, we can see which one's better. But the YMax inception price was $20 a share, and the all-time high for YMax was $21.68 a share. The March 28th declaration and distribution is going to be about 13 cents, and the current share price for YMax is $14.01 a share. This fund was incepted in February 20th, 2024, so it's been out for over a year. And with that being said, the total premium since this fund has been incepted is about $9.52 a share. There have been 35 distributions for this fund because it was a monthly payer, then turned a weekly payer. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing yet, but let's continue looking at these numbers. The average distribution is going to also be a little bit skewed because this was a monthly payer before and now it's a weekly payer. But the share price change in value since the inception of that $20 is negative 29.95%. But if we look at the total return since its inception, it's at that $17.70, it's at that 17.70%. So it's pretty good. And let me double check what the xdte numbers were. Yeah, so looking at total return, this is for xdte, it's at 14.71%. Now let's look at YMax again. So YMax is actually showing a better return or total return. The share price value is going down a lot more drastically, so it hurts a little bit more when you see it in your account. But if you look at total return standpoint, it did about 3% better than Roundhill. It has been out a little bit longer, maybe about a month longer. So maybe that little difference could be like 1 or 2%, but it is what it is. That's the data. We're looking at it. But the share price change in value since the all-time high, it's actually negative 35.38%. And then if we look at that as a total return, it's 9%. So let's go back to xdte and make a quick comparison. So if you actually bought, so this is the xdte. So if you bought at the wrong time, you actually did a better job of investing with xdte versus YMax. So if you bought YMax at the wrong time, your return is going to be worse than if you invested into xdte at its worst time. Hard to make a differentiation which one is better. I personally like xdte. Let me know what you think in the comment section, which one's better. Okay, continuing forward, the average share price for YMax is at $17.40. Cool. Okay, now let's go over to YMAG. So the YMAG inception price was $20 a share, and the all-time high was $21.63 a share. The March 28th declaration and distribution is going to be 8 cents, which is lower than ulty and one of the lowest on the weekly distributors. But the current share price is $15.56 a share. Since this fund has been incepted since February 20th, 2024, we've had 35 distribution payments. Used to be a monthly, now is a weekly. And the total premium paid since this fund has been incepted is $8.60 a share. If you look at that as an average distribution, is about 24 cents, almost 25. And then if we look at the share price change in value, it's negative 22.20%. But if we also incorporate the distribution payments into the share price, it's actually up 20.81%, which is pretty good. It's actually a lot better than xdte and a lot better than YMax. But if we bought this fund at the absolute worst time, it is down 28.06%, but the total return is a positive 12%. So if we look at, people talk about how much they don't like the YMAG and Magnificent 7. At least for YieldMax, they're outperforming xdte, qdte, rdte. So there is an argument to be made there. And if we look at the average share price, it's $18.73 a share. So let me give you my final thoughts. All right, guys. So from all of the funds that we have looked at for this video, the best performing fund is YBTC. It's had a total return at inception price of 40%. And then if we look at outside of an inception price, it's at that 26.37%. The YieldMax weekly payers of LFGY and GPTY, I think it's too early to tell to make an investment in these funds. I think they have some great potential, but they haven't shown a track record of actually producing a good result. And same thing with their weekly like SDTY, RDTY, and QDTY. I think it's too early to tell and invest into them. I would, in this case, if you're looking for a fund to invest in, go into just xdte. And believe it or not, YMax was actually performing, or YMAG was doing a decent job of performance. It beat YMAG and it beat most of the other Roundhill funds as a weekly payer. So if you are on the fence of what YieldMax fund to invest in, YMAG is not a bad choice. I still think nvdy or msty would be a better bet, but that's just my personal take on it. All right, guys. So those were my final thoughts. The numbers aren't going to lie. There they are. Let me know what you think in the comment section. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Matt out. See you in the next one.